Welcome back, everyone. So today, a story of game developers having to rapidly fix problems even though, well, the building they're in is also literally on fire. Okay, not literally, but basically, the team behind Diablo have had a very rough few days. They dropped Season 3. That did not go well, right? You essentially end up with posts calling for literally a new dev team, people coming up with theories to explain just how Season 3 has managed to feel so much worse than Season 2. So imagine they're trying to firefight, they're trying to come up with fixes, but then 1,900 people are cut, with a lot of those people being at Blizzard. And that's rough. Some people who even work on Diablo 4 assets are cut. QA gets slaughtered, as does customer service. Then, these developers, well, they're committed to responding, and just a few days later, right as the axe of Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella is falling on the organization, they launch their fixes. Satya & co. obviously being focused on the money, as D4 should be, but it's being generous in the wrong way. People are in fact saying Blizzard are generous because they've made a battle pass so bad it's not worth spending money on. And speaking of saving money, today's sponsor.
Guess what? I recently found out that I was being charged every month for Microsoft 365 Family, which I've not used in years. Kinda stung. And Rocket Money, thankfully, is here to help. Rocket Money is a personal finance tool that helps you lower your bills, stay on top of subscriptions, and manage your money. And you can actually get started for free today at rocketmoney.com/Bellular. So, subscriptions then. Well, once you hook up Rocket Money, it just identifies your recurring charges, and the amazing thing is, you can cancel them all from there in just a tap, which is amazingly easy. So if this has been on your to-do list, well, definitely check out Rocket Money. They'll fix that for you. What about your bills? This is an amazing thing. If you want your bills to be lower, but you don't want to spend hours of your life listening to on-hold music on a phone line, well, you can actually upload your bills to Rocket Money. They will negotiate your bills down for you. That's just a crazy time saver. They do more as well, like helping you budget, and so far, they've actually saved their customers an average of $720 a year, cancelling a total of $500 million of subscriptions. So that's just like money that was disappearing, and people weren't using, like, the things. And Rocket Money have helped them save that money. That's really awesome. So, if you want to save more, and if you want to spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Just go to rocketmoney.com/Bellular or click that link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with Premium, and that's rocketmoney.com/Bellular to get started for free. Thanks then for sponsoring, and let's roll.
Okay, let's get into the situation. Number one, there are some bugs, some progression blockers, the usual thing. But then, the slight problem of the fundamental design conceit of this new season being something that players really bounce off. Like the state of Diablo 4 right now. I don't like the season theme. You then move on over to the Reddit. We have things like the dev team needs to be replaced. So far at level 52, this feels worse than Season 1. Talk about a great step backwards. My honest review, shit's boring, log out. So, none of this is going to be a particularly happy thing to read, of course, as a developer. Now, let's actually work out what's going on here. So, essentially, the season has got vaults, right? These are new dungeon crawls that have traps. And then there's also an AI construct companion. I suppose the idea is that companion can be doing things that are useful to you while perhaps you are dealing with avoiding some traps. Now, part of the way that that works is there are buffs in your character, you lose stacks of that buff whenever you fail the traps, so certainly playing with precision here is something that'll feel quite important. And this then brings you to the big thing of action RPGs. Generally speaking, are they known for slow, methodical, precise gameplay? No. They are known for lightning goddamn fast gameplay. Now you get the idea here. Blizzard wanted to shake things up and maybe have some more world interaction, have a little bit of kiss curse, and perhaps also set players the challenge of, hey, you can still try to go fast, but you really should try to be precise while you do it, or else you'll be punished by failing these traps, losing your stacks. That's all, of course, tied into resources. However, this just ends up being a little bit punishing. It ends up not being particularly fun, and it is a way of playing D4 that feels very different to D4 Season 2, which, ended up being in a significantly better place than Season 1. And when I say significantly, I mean people are saying we wouldn't have had any drama if Season 1 was as good as Season 2. That's absolutely brutal. And of course, there are still issues like, say, itemization in the game that people are fairly, I would say they were fairly pissed off about in the past. They do have plans. They've communicated those plans. So I think that people are feeling a little bit better about some of those like longer term things. They know they're being worked on. But in this case, it's fairly simple. With a season of a game like this, if you try a big new mechanic or something like that for the season and it doesn't work out, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. This is not a unique problem to Diablo, though. This has happened many times in the likes of, say, Path of Exile, and in so many other games. Indeed, an upcoming story, which has initially appeared via leaks, is Overwatch doing a lot of things different in Season 9. And, well, people are very skeptical. Now, one thing that people are skeptical of as well is the Battle Pass. But, not the sort of like, how are they trying to screw us over? People are, confused. Why does the Battle Pass look like this? Why would I buy it? So let's actually get into that. I think well highlighted by Paul Tassi, who writes for Forbes, basically showcasing some armor that is available on the store. And this is a great example of how, even if you're a Battle Pass player, you're not really getting a great time. So this is some absolutely awesome looking gear, right? So that, sick. Amazing for druids. What about this one? The Lord Eater also looks goddamn fantastic. Let's see, Lover in White. Goddamn, right? These are some amazing pieces of armor. I'm less pro that one, but that's just Paul giving an example of some stuff available in the in-game store. The problem then is, well, what's the Battle Pass like? Here's one quote from the Reddit. A big shout out to the D4 team for making the Battle Pass rewards so boring. Out here saving me $10 each season because I don't feel in any way tempted to purchase them. Of course, that's the tricky thing for Blizzard then. What is the Battle Pass? Ideally, that is the gateway, because once people purchase that Battle Pass, it's basically like a thing that goes on in free-to-play games, turning you from basically a free-to-play into a payer. And once you have paid, you're more likely to pay again. As well, of course, because you're earning some platinum through the Battle Pass, and then when you buy the Battle Pass, you're maybe doing that with platinum, you're going to start accumulating amounts of platinum that eventually you might think, oh, $8.99, well, get me enough platinum on top of what I've already got to get this piece of armor. And that's basically how they get you more in that economy. Now, in most games, the way this works is your Battle Pass represents by far the best value, and in a lot of games, they'll maybe do a theme for their Battle Pass, and they'll just go super hard. And if all works, people get the Battle Pass. Problem is, though, the contents of this one as compared to that armor. What's really useful here is a big thanks to Wowhead. Their little compilation's actually really handy. Certainly, I'll say that I think the main piece of armor in this looks absolutely sick, but it is sort of one thing. Let's just go through it to break it down. So, if you were playing the game for free, well, that's where things are a bit more rough. You get to be this. Yeah, sort of walk around town in your gear that doesn't really look like it's anything that a character in the Diablo universe would have, because I mean, what? Right? Look, this is better than the red shirt, but people remember the red shirt from Season 1 where it just felt like, this is so lame, it's almost a bit of an insult. So you get that for free. Ain't that amazing? But let's go to the premium armor then. So this is, I think, a fairly cool bit of armor, and you can see there's different versions. Basically, it's just that, but applied to each of the game's different classes. Then moving on, there is another recolor of this with this closed off faceplate. And I'll be real, I think that this looks absolutely terrific. So overall, what you've got here is two armor sets that are definitely, they're borrowing from each other, that's for sure. Now, this is one of those challenging things where this, these are available for each class. Now imagine what that actually means. So to go back to Paul Tassi's example, let's just take this really cool bit of druid armor, right? So you make this bit of druid armor. What's that got to go on? Well, it's got to go on the body of, the male and female druid. There's I think anyway from Diablo, it's just there's two main body types. So you just have to put the armor in that. But if your armor has got to go on every class in the game, two body types for every single class, that's actually quite a lot of manual work, just because there's a lot more involved in putting them onto every single character. And technically, they will offer more value to a player because they're usable in every character. But this is a problem that even, say, World of Warcraft had recently in Battle for Azeroth and moving into Shadowlands. They just had bits of armor based on each armor type. So instead of getting a hunter set, you would get a mail set that was themed to the raid that you were doing. And that really lost so much. So essentially to me, it seems what we're getting is if you want stuff themed to your class, so that's the stuff that will feel truly awesome, you're going to have to pay for it additionally in the store. If you want some cool but generic armor, that's on the battle pass. And otherwise, that's kind of that. I do remember Blizzard showing off, like this is a comparison between in-game gear and battle pass or, premium store gear way back before the game launched. But certainly, I'll definitely say the way that highly themed to a given class gear is disproportionately just stuck in the store, I really think that is a bummer for class customization in the game. So this is basically the two ways in which we've got a little bit of a disaster. I would say the actual quality of the season, that's the main problem, and then the side problem is people are essentially saying, guys, I'm not going to spend money in your battle pass because it's not good enough. Of course, for Blizzard, that will present quite a bit of trouble. Then, of course, our broader context, BlizzCon didn't have a humongous expansion reveal in the way that would super excite people. So that's going to be a little disappointing for many. People still have a bit of a taste in their mouth from Season 1. And while some core game improvements that are amazing are still being worked on, they're not quite there yet. So let's talk about the developer response. Almost immediately, Joe Shelley says, basically, it's cool to see people dive in. We're reviewing feedback, especially from people who have played for many hours, and they say they've agreed in fixes. And then a few days later, and this is in spite of everything going on, which for them is working out, do I still have a job? And you may think, well, they're a development team. You don't know if they'll, that they should be fine. They don't know that. That's the thing. And a lot of that dev team, that is a team in California. Now, the announcements happened at 7 a.m. in California time. That was quite rough. But the thing is, by the time that some of these people woke up, they will have heard from people they know in the Austin office. So there is a Blizzard office in Austin, Texas. It does actually have some development staff. It also has a lot of people in customer service, BattleNet. And that place was absolutely again, I keep on saying the word decimated because it's a big throaty word, but decimated's 10%. No, I've even seen people say it's up to 80% of that office. I don't know how much that bit is true, but the core thing is they are in this environment of, oh shit. And it's not like everyone just receives a, you're in or you're out email within 30 minutes. No, people find out slowly, am I at risk? Am I not? I've spoken to people who, by the end of the first day, still were not sure where they stood. So that is an insane mental load to just be hanging over you. And again, in terms of core development staff, it seems that people on Overwatch 2 did find out reasonably early that they were being cut. Of course, Overwatch 2 is a very major game in their portfolio, and that would mean if you're on the Diablo team, you're not thinking to yourself, oh, yeah, well, I'm in Diablo, therefore I'm safe, because you then look at Overwatch and see that loads of people have been cut. I mean, at least with the survival game, the thing was cancelled. You can understand why those job losses happened. So this is going to be mentally goddamn brutal for these workers, but they do have fixes, and let's just talk then about the hot fix. So number one, stuff with the Echo of Malphas and essentially some currency, basically fixing up currency. I don't really want to get into the turbo specifics here. Essentially added one new currency to reduce the pressure on another currency, ideally to sort of better balance up the game. They then did some nice loot updates, so the drop rate of unique stones from Malphas has doubled. They've got a 3% chance of dropping from the chest after a boss, and defeating the Echo of Malphas will reward more legendary items, and eye level 925 stuff is dropping more often. So it's one thing the players will be happy about. The next thing then is the Senshell, which is your AI companion. And essentially what they've tried to do is accelerate its progress, because even if it's really good, when you absolutely just, upgraded it just totally to the tits, absolutely maxed out, the problem is people are quitting before they even see any of that. So essentially their response to this is to ensure the players just get more upgrade currency, so that they can level this thing up more, so they can actually start to appreciate what the hell it does, so it can have a positive impact on the season, instead of feeling like, oh, I guess this is the thing they've added because, they want to balance out the traps, but it's weak and the traps are bad. which is why it obviously didn't work. Next then, the vaults, and to be honest with you, I am now interested in picking up this season, so I'm just going to go through essentially the way that it works. These vaults have got a treasure room at the end, and they're absolutely, they're full of traps. Now, the idea here is that you get pearls of warding, right? You then consume those at a statue of Zoltan Kulle, and you get buffs of Zoltan's warning. What you want to do is get to the end of the vault with as many stacks as is possible. You need to still have at least one stack in order to, open the chest, and basically from there, I believe it's the more the merrier. Thing is, though, if you're hit by a trap, you lose a stack. So that essentially is the gameplay. So obviously, if this felt pretty punishing and the acquisition of the pearls that turn into the wards felt slow, then you could get this sort of situation where players, they get all their resources, they go and do the thing that ideally, they spend the resources, they get some stuff in the treasure room, but they just end up not having fun. And then if that is a major way to progress your character, then, self-explanatory, right? So how do they change this? Because these changes have actually got a lot of players on board. Basically, consuming a pearl gets you 10 stacks instead of 3. So yeah, they've over-tripled it. So obviously then, the impact that has on the economy is absolutely humongous. The maximum stacks of Zoltan's Warning has been increased from 300 to 999, so you can just go mad. The grace period for losing stacks when hit by multiple things at once is increased from 1 second to 1.5, and their example is, if you're hit by 3 darts in the span of 1.5 seconds, you'll lose 1 stack instead of 3. So that's a really good change. Then on top of that, some more tuning. So the Heralds of Malphas mobs now guarantee a legendary item drop starting at level 26 with a 15% chance to drop a second one. Again, more loot, honestly, for a game like this can equal more fun, as long as, sorting through your loot and that kind of thing isn't a massive pain in the ass, which, in fairness, at least in my experience playing D4, it certainly was at launch. Anyway, knockbacks being removed from obelisk hazards. Chests will now appear after completing a vault-ending encounter. These new chests will drop a guaranteed legendary starting from level 26 plus with a 35% chance to drop another one. So again, you're getting more loot, economy is being loosened up, it's being made less punishing overall, the projectile speed of the darts is reduced, the hitbox of floor-based stuff has been reduced a bit, and the hitbox for elemental pillars has also been reduced. So you can see it's a bit more forgiving and also a bit more rewarding. And then the little dude that you're taking through all of this, well, you can level him up way faster. Now, I'm not just going to sit here and declare victory, but it's been very notable, the response to these hotfixes. I mean, to a degree, people will certainly have seen the news, and I think there will be a degree of feeling bad for them. But it does actually seem this has really made a dent with players. We've got headlines from Forbes, from Games Radar. Verdict seems to be reversing on the season. Diablo 4 effectively patched out its core mechanic, and it feels great. Basically, in just those traps, rather than being a little bit of texture, they just ended up being so much friction that people just no longer sort of enjoyed the process. Maybe it was breaking them out of the flow, the sort of flow state that they actually go to a game like Diablo to get into. But the second, you're being interrupted from your mass murder by having to do some traps, but then when the traps are, really going to be punishing and taxing your resources, you can see how that's just a recipe for something that could have worked, but just was on the wrong side of the mark. And of course, going in the Reddit, there's actually a lot of positive vibes there too. Overall then, where does this kind of bring us? Well, for me, the thing of maximum importance is trust, right? Trust in a development team. Because we all know that stuff is going to go wrong. But in the best cases of a healthy community, well, that community just says, well, it's fine, we trust the development team. They're open, they're honest, they fix things quickly. Is that the case with Diablo 4? Well, obviously Season 1 did a lot of damage, where essentially they were saying, hey, we have a lot of launch problems and we need to fix some fundamental things. Here's the medicine, enjoy. And as they say, some sugar to help the medicine go down. And, they weren't giving some lovely sweet cowpole to the players. They were giving some, pungent cough syrup that tastes horrible. Season 1 was not great. Season 2, far, far, far better. But the thing is, it does take multiple points to actually start to create a trend line. If you see bad, then good, then bad, you're not going to be feeling good. What I do think matters is the response. They've responded so damn quick. In a matter of days, they seemingly just identified, and I don't want to say solved, but made major steps towards making this feel better. I'm actually seeing a lot of people as well say that they're just preferring to do vaults over the dungeons, like nightmare dungeons. In many cases, number one, the vaults will feel new and different, which will certainly help. Also, some things in and around pathing. And actually, I just want to go to this one comment that we found when we were scoping about. It really does mirror some of my perspective when I was playing like just a little bit at the start of Season 2, and I didn't really stick with it because of IRL, but one of the things that annoyed me with the dungeons, and of course by Season 2, going around a bunch of nightmare dungeons was way easier because of the teleporting. The backtracking just did kind of suck. And I can understand how the objectives, those maybe feel, they add a little bit of story or whatever, but if it just ends up being backtracking, it ain't fun. So here's somebody just saying, a starting segment that has you reach the objective, then you just go through, clear a gauntlet at the end, and bam, loot. I've been enjoying running vaults over nightmare dungeons quite a bit. No backtracking, no headache objectives. Just go in, opt into extra reward, clear, get reward, go in, 5 minutes, in and out, that's it, that's the post. And there's definitely a lesson in that. In, say, Diablo 3, I actually really enjoyed doing the Greater Rifts. Anyway, overall, the question is, does this team have what it takes? Ultimately, they can do really good work. They did that in Season 2, right? Now, there are elements of this new season that people are really enjoying. When there was negative feedback, they responded to it extremely quickly. Like, extremely quickly. So overall, for me, even though this is a foible, I think about a game like Diablo 4, what is needed for it to be good in the long run. And basically, it's a degree of learning how to reinvent itself without becoming another person, without becoming another game. In this case, yeah, they missed the mark initially. But you think about most of the very successful action RPGs like Path of Exile, they do a genuinely great job of shaking up. I mean, hell, PoE even put an auto-battler in for one of their seasons, which is absolutely insane and very cool indeed. So even though it was a swing and a miss, I'm very glad that they took the swing. I think that was definitely a swing worth taking. It doesn't work out all of the time. I have trust that if they miss the mark, they'll make it better, and that they seem to be genuinely trying to have like new seasonal gameplay types. That to me is actually just saying, okay, good. My worry in Season 1 was there was so little to the season of the Malignant or whatever it was called. I was just worried that we would have like these threadbare seasons with, some loot things, but not really a massive amount of new sort of content, a new dungeon, a new way of playing. It seems that's actually getting better here. So honestly, credit to them. The final thing that I want to talk about, and I'm sort of going around all the Blizzard games across our channels, will this game be damaged by Microsoft? That's a big question for a lot of people, even if they feel like they trust the developers. That doesn't matter if the developers are extremely demoralized and, don't have a sense of their own job security. So, some people in the D4 team are gone. I saw people, like environment artists posting on Twitter that they lost their jobs. Honestly, what I should do is just some like LinkedIn deep diving to see what offices these people were from, because I know that Austin office did have some development roles in it, and it did experience very heavy cuts. So the other side of it, well, customer support impacted, infrastructure, that's impacted, community, that's impacted. For a game like this, community is very important. Those things will be outsourced, which will likely lead to a significantly diminished quality of service being real, and also headaches for the development team. Because as a dev team, when you're moving from internal to external QA, that can very often absolutely suck. Especially thinking about, what if those QA people have bad incentives? I've seen so many cases of QA staff being given KPIs that are just about like submit tickets. And then the developer ends up getting flooded with QA tickets, which are, not important. What you'd rather have is, less noise, more signal, focus on the bits that matter the most, and that's the sort of thing that you get from your own internal QA. Something that they have murdered. That bit does suck. But anyway, that's where we stand as we enter this first full year of D4, one that of course will have an expansion launch at the end, and that's where we'll get to see, well, what the hell does an expansion mean in this new world of Diablo? Obviously, for the launch of this game, it sort of felt like this open world RPG thing, but then by the time it obviously gets into endgame, well, what are we doing? We are taking all the Adderall and doing all of the dungeon content very fast in absolutely insane builds. Will the next expansion be more a reflection of the game, how it launched, focusing more on those open world elements, or will they be folding in a lot of what they've learned here and trying to make a robust endgame by laying major sized foundations with the next expansion. To be honest with you, I hope for the latter. I think that's best for what Diablo realistically is. What do you think about the game? Do let me know. That's been it for today's video. We will have a report on the situation with Overwatch. Some earnings have been leaked, and that's not all that's been leaked. So, subscribe, see that tomorrow, and of course, you can check out this video that we just published as well. I think you'll enjoy it. That's it for me. See you next time.